I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Picture the most complex thing humans build.
Okay.
Maybe it's a massive oil refinery with thousands of miles of piping. Or a sprawling solar power plant in the desert that just stretches as far as you can see.
Billions of euros, thousands of workers.
Exactly. Heavy machinery everywhere. It looks like this masterpiece of engineering.
Right.
But here's the question. How does that actually happen?
It's a terrifying logistical puzzle when you really stop and think about it.
It is.
Yeah.
How do you make sure the pipe laid by Team A actually connects to the valve from Team B like 3 years later without the whole thing blowing up?
Yeah.
Or the company's going bankrupt?
Right.
We usually think the answer is, great engineering or genius project managers. But today, we found out the real answer is paperwork.
Well, very specific, very rigorous paperwork. It's like the operating system that runs the physical world.
And we are diving deep into a stack of documents that literally define reality for these mega projects. We've got a contract agreement package in front of us.
Yeah.
And I know contract agreement sounds like the absolute cure for insomnia.
But stick with us, because it's actually the DNA of the entire project. It's not just legal jargon. It's the instruction manual for human cooperation on a massive scale.
It's how you take two companies that might not even trust each other and force them to build a billion-euro asset.
Exactly.
So let's lay out what we have. We've got this source material documents labeled A0.0 through A0.5. There's the agreement itself, a master document list, powers of attorney, letters of tender acceptance.
The whole package.
Our mission today is to decode this. We're going to figure out how these really dry templates actually manage risk and money and safety when the stakes are just astronomical.
And what's so fascinating is that this isn't just about the law. It's about psychology. It's about trying to predict the future 5-10 years out, stop things going wrong before the first shovel even hits the ground.
Okay, let's unpack this. We start with the backbone of the whole operation. Source A0.0, the contract agreement. This is the main document, right? The cover of the book.
Right. And this establishes the fundamental relationship. You have the employer, that's the entity with the money who wants something built. And then you have the contractor, the company that's going to design and build it.
And right in the preamble, it says the employer desires that the works be executed. I love that term, the works. It just sounds so total.
It is total. And notice the specific phrasing. Execution and completion of these works, and the remedying of any defects therein.
Remedying of any defect.
That's crucial. You don't just build it and walk away. You are on the hook to fix it if it breaks. It creates this long tail of liability that drags on for years after the ribbon cutting.
And for all that, there's a very specific placeholder for the contract price in euros, a fixed agreement. But this is where it gets really interesting to me. Clause 5.
Yes.
It talks about conditions precedent.
This is a mechanism that catches a lot of people off guard. You might sign the document today, you're shaking hands, taking photos, popping champagne.
Yeah.
But legally, the contract is a zombie. It's basically dead.
A zombie contract.
Essentially. Clause 5 says the contract doesn't actually start or come into full force until specific conditions are met. It lists them as A and B.
So wait, even though I've signed, I can't actually start work.
Exactly. These conditions could be anything: getting a specific government permit, securing a massive bank loan,
Providing an insurance certificate, something like that.
Right. And the text says if these aren't satisfied within a certain number of days, the agreement is void and ineffective.
So it's a self-destruct button.
In a way, yes. The deal just evaporates. It says any securities issued shall be returned. It protects both sides from being locked into a project that can't actually, legally or financially start.
That's wild. You could have a signed contract that is technically worthless because you forgot to file some permit on a Tuesday.
Precisely. It turns all that bureaucracy into a binary switch. Life or death for the project.
Okay, now let's talk about Clause 7, the supremacy clause, or as the document calls it, the entire agreement.
This is vital for anyone listening who does business, even if it's not billion-euro construction.
Right. Clause 7 says this contract supersedes all prior negotiations, representations, or agreements.
So all those coffee meetings.
Gone.
The emails where the sales guy said, yeah, don't worry, we'll throw in the landscaping for free.
Meaningless.
The slide deck where they promised the moon.
Incinerated.
Yeah.
If it is not in this document, it doesn't exist.
I feel like there is a painful story behind every single clause like that, but you promised me at dinner.
Doesn't matter. It creates a firewall around the project scope. It protects the project from he said, she said.
Okay.
But there's another layer. Look at Clause 2. It lists the documents that form the contract.
Yeah, it's a list. The memoranda, particular conditions, general conditions.
But notice the order. In law, there's usually a hierarchy. If the particular conditions, which are written specifically for this project, contradict the general conditions, which are just standard industry templates.
The particular conditions win.
Exactly. The custom stuff overrides the standard stuff. You customize the rules to fit your reality. Okay, so that's the agreement itself. But then we get to source A0.1, the master document list, or MDL. Honestly, when I first looked at this, I thought, this is boring. It's just a list of other documents.
It's a 6-page table of contents.
Right.
But think of it as the map. If you are lost in the middle of a billion-euro project, this is the only document that tells you where you are.
It's the nervous system.
That's a great way to put it. It connects the legal agreement to the physical reality.
Something jumped out at me immediately in this list. Item D0.0. 88 conditions of contract for plant design and build contract.
Right, the Yellow Book.
The Yellow Book. I'm guessing that's not a phone directory.
No, definitely not. In the international construction world, FIDIC contracts are color-coded to define the risk relationship. You've got the Red Book, the Silver Book.
Okay.
The Yellow Book implies a design and build contract, and that tells us a huge amount about the soul of this project.
Design and build. So that means the employer isn't handing over a set of blueprints and saying, build this.
Correct. They are saying, here is what I need the plant to do. I need it to process this much oil or generate this much power. You figure out how to design it, and then you build it.
So the risk of the design failing sits entirely with the contractor.
100%. If the contractor builds it exactly to their own drawing, but the plant doesn't work, that's the contractor's fault. They can't blame the employer's architect.
That makes sense why there's so much documentation then. The contractor's taking on a massive gamble.
A huge one.
Speaking of which, let's look at section 2.5 of this list. The employer requirements. This isn't just build a wall. It gets right into the weeds.
It does. Look at E2.1 and E2.2, life-saving rules and HSE site rules.
HSE being health, safety, and environment.
Right. By listing these as actual contract documents, safety isn't just a nice-to-have or some moral obligation. It's a contractual obligation. If you violate the life-saving rules, you aren't just being unsafe, you are in breach of contract.
That is a powerful distinction. It monetizes safety. And then there's E2.9, interface management.
This is one of my favorites. It sounds like corporate buzzword bingo, but it's arguably the most important operational clause in there.
Only you would have a favorite clause about interface management. Explain why this matters so much.
Okay, picture a mega project. You rarely have just one contractor. You might have one giant company building the power plant, another building the transmission lines, and a third building the pipeline that feeds the plant.
Right. 3 different kingdoms all working on the same land.
Exactly. E2.9 requires interface registers and logs. It legally forces them to talk to each other to figure out exactly where the pipe meets the wire. It defines the handshake.
So you can't just build your part, stop at the property line, and say, not my problem.
My pipe ends here? Nope.
Wow.
You are legally required to manage that interface. If contractor A builds a pipe that ends at coordinate X, and contractor B builds a valve that starts at coordinate Y, and they don't meet.
Somebody's in trouble.
And the interface log is the document they use to figure out who pays to fix it.
It prevents things from falling through the cracks. Which brings us to the part everyone cares about, money and risk. Section 2.3, performance guarantees and liquidated damages.
Stick.
Yes, stick.
Yeah, liquidated damages are the financial weapon. In many legal systems, you can't just punish someone with a penalty, but you can agree in advance on a genuine estimate of the loss.
So if the plant doesn't produce as much power as you promised, or you're 30 days late,
you pay a pre-agreed amount.
So instead of going to court to argue about how much money was lost, the contract just acts like a vending machine. You are late. Insert 100,000 euros.
Exactly. It removes the argument. It's brutal efficiency.
And then Section 2.6 covers the pricing schedule.
This defines the carrot, how you get paid, and Source F2.0 offers options, lump sum, OBELS conversion, or EPCM-CPIF.
Okay, that is a thick soup of acronyms. Translate that for us.
It all boils down to who takes the financial risks. The document forces them to choose a model. Lump sum means, here is 100 million euros. Get it done.
And if steel prices triple?
The contractor eats the loss. It's high risk for them.
And cost plus.
That means we will pay for the materials and labor, plus a fee for your profit. In that case, the employer takes on the risk of inflation. The master document list forces the parties to pick a lane. No ambiguity.
I also noticed something in E5.1 and E5.2, spare parts and long-term services agreements.
Yes, future-proofing. The contract is already thinking about 5, 10, maybe 20 years from now.
So when a valve breaks in 2035, do we have the spare parts?
Is the contractor obligated to come back and service the turbine? It all has to be in there. You have the leverage now. You won't have it when the plant is broken down in 10 years.
Okay, so moving on to sources 8.2 and 8.3, the power of attorney. This feels like something out of a courtroom drama.
It's the human element. We've been talking about companies, the employer, the contractor, as if they are people. But they aren't. They're legal fictions. They can't hold a pen.
Right. Real people have to sign.
But which people? You can't just have the intern sign a billion-euro deal on a Tuesday afternoon.
That would be a very bad day for the intern.
So Annex 002 and 003 specifically name the representatives. Name A and Name B are authorized to commit and sign. It validates that these specific humans speak for the entire corporate entity.
But I did laugh when I saw the time limit. Did you catch that?
Oh, yeah. This power of attorney shall, not later than 2 years after the date hereof, become null and void.
It expires. I just imagine the negotiations dragging on. It's year 2, day 1, and the CEO raises his pen to sign, and the lawyer just tackles him.
His power just ran out.
Yeah.
It's a funny image, like Cinderella at the ball, but it's a crucial control. You don't want someone running around with the authority to sign contracts for your company forever.
People change jobs, strategies change.
Right. It forces a refresh of authority. It ensures the person signing today still has the trust of the board today.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so we have the contract text, the map of documents, and the authorization. Now we get to the actual moment of the deal, the handshake.
But in this world, it's a handshake in slow motion. We have source A0.4, the letter of tender.
This is the contractor's formal offer, and the language is incredibly bold.
It really is. It says, "We have examined, understood, and checked these documents and have ascertained that they contain no errors, no omissions, or other defects."
Think about the weight of that sentence. They are legally stating, we checked your homework and it's perfect.
Which means they can't come back later and say,
Well, we didn't notice that the soil report was missing page 5.
exactly. They just waive that right. It shifts the burden of due diligence 100% onto the contractor.
And they explicitly offer to do the work for the contract price.
And this is key. They agree to keep the offer open until a specific date. They can't just withdraw it because steel prices went up next week. They are locked in.
So the employer gets this letter of tender. They like the price, they like the plan. What happens next? Source A0.5, the letter of acceptance.
This is the moment the magic happens. The employer writes back, accepting the accepted contract amount. But you have to look at the text carefully.
It says, we acknowledge that this letter of acceptance creates a binding contract between us.
That is the critical insight. The deal is live now. They haven't even signed the big formal A0.0 agreement we talked about at the beginning.
Wait, really? The letter is the contract.
It creates the binding obligation. The formal agreement comes later to, tidy everything up. But legally, you are married the moment this letter is sent.
That is both terrifying and efficient.
And there's a drafting note here about a notice to proceed.
Yes, tell me about that.
Sometimes the employer adds a notice to proceed right into this letter. It means the clock starts now. The deadlines, the penalties, the schedule, everything kicks into gear immediately. It's the starting gun.
So to recap this whole thing, we had a hierarchy of documents that supersedes coffee shop promises. We have a map that forces enemies to talk to each other through interface logs. We have expiring powers of attorney and a letter that binds you to a billion-euro deal before you even sign the fancy book.
That's a good summary. These documents, A0.0 through A0.5, they turn a vague desire, like I want a factory, into a rigid, legally binding reality.
It's fascinating because we usually see these things as just bureaucracy, red tape.
It is red tape, but it's load-bearing red tape.
Load-bearing red tape, I like that.
Without D3.0 for insurance or E2.1 for safety rules, the project is just a dangerous gamble. These documents create a web of accountability.
Every bridge you drive over, every office building you work in, it all started with a stack of papers exactly like this that makes you look at the world a little differently.
It's not just concrete and steel, it's codified trust, or maybe codified obligation. Trust is expensive, contracts are cheaper.
Fair point. But here is where it gets really interesting to me, and maybe a bit provocative for you listening. We've just looked at this perfect plan.
On paper, yeah, looks airtight.
We have interface management plans, stakeholder management plans. We have a plan for everything. So why is it that almost every mega project I read about is wildly over budget and years behind schedule?
That is the billion-euro question, isn't it?
If the contract is this airtight, if the DNA is this perfect, why does the organism still get sick?
It raises a paradox.
Mm.
We've added more and more complexity to the documentation to try and control the chaos of reality. We've created these massive document ecosystems,
Yeah.
but you have to wonder, is the complexity of the documentation actually solving the problem?
Or is it creating a new maze that's just impossible to navigate?
Exactly. When you have a master document list that is 6 pages long just to list the titles of the other documents, can any single human actually understand the whole picture?
Or have we created a system so complex that no one even knows what the supremacy clause is applying to anymore? It's like we might be drowning in our own instructions.
We might be. If the project manager is spending 90% of their time just navigating the particular conditions, are they actually watching the concrete being poured?
That is something to think about the next time you drive past a construction site that seems to have been there forever. Maybe they aren't waiting for bricks.
Maybe they're just stuck in Annex 001.
Thank you for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.
If you are interested in buying the templates, then please visit our shop. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching and see you next time.